So I'm testing out another camera lighting angle setup thing, so you'll have to let me know what you think. And today we are talking OWLs. The Owls readathon is taking place in April. As always, G from the Book Roast is kindly hosting us again, and I'm here with my Owls TBR. So this year there were some new careers to pick from, and I've decided to go with Metal Charmer this year. Reason being because it seems to combine my love of Harry Potter and Mistborn, as my sister very kindly pointed out. So I'm going for the Metal Charmer career this year. I'm keeping my notes in this lovely sparkly shiny notepad that I got in one of my Fairy Loot boxes. So the exams that I have to sit for a career as a Metal Charmer at OWL are Ancient Runes, Arithmancy, Charms, Defense Against the Dark Arts, Transfiguration, and 2 options, of which I have picked Care of Magical Creatures and Potions. So for Ancient Runes, the challenge is to read a book with heart in the title or a heart on the cover of the book. And for this one I have chosen The Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson, because this is book 2 in the Remnant Chronicles. I read The Kiss of Deception this month in March. It was actually the book club book for this channel, so I read that in March, and I'm trying to be a lot better about continuing on with series that I'm interested in as soon as possible. So this is book 2. I enjoyed book 1, so I plan to read book 2 for Arithmancy in April. Did I say Arithmancy? I meant Ancient Runes. For Arithmancy, you have to read outside of your genre. And for this, I'm reading The Flat Chair by Beth O'Leary, which is actually our book club book for April, so that's handy. This one is contemporary romance, which is a genre I read a fair amount, but it's not my favourite genre. My favourite genre is fantasy, and this is not fantasy, so it counts. I am trying to be better about reading broadly within genre anyway, so I took this question, this prompt, to mean anything outside of your main favourite genre that you read. So that's what this is. Just realised I didn't tell you anything about The Art of Betrayal. So this is book 2 in the Remnant Chronicles. In book 1 we follow a princess who is due to be getting married. It's an arranged marriage, but she doesn't want to be an arranged marriage, she wants to marry for love. So she decides to run away, and she's pursued by the man she would have married as well as by an assassin, only the reader doesn't know which one is which. At least you don't know which one is which if you read the book physically, which is what I recommend you do, because the audiobook is full cast, so you know immediately who is the prince and who is the assassin, which is incredibly annoying when that's the main twist of the book. But that's the journey of book 1, and then this is the sequel. For The Flat Chair, we follow 2 characters who are named Leon and Tiffy, and Leon is looking for a flatmate and Tiffy is looking for a flat. She works during the day, so she only needs a flat at night. Leon works at night, so he only needs a flat during the day, and so they decide to share not only a flat but also a bed, and they communicate using notes that they leave on the fridge for each other or something. I don't know. And it's a romance novel, so you can see where that's going. Then for Charms, the prompt is to read a book with a white cover, and for this one I want to continue with the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas, so Crown of Midnight, which is book 2. Book 1 follows a character who is in prison awaiting execution, but instead she's offered an opportunity to enter into a competition, the winner of whom will become the King's Champion. And there's lots of other side stories and things going on as well that I won't tell you about. I read Throne of Glass mid last year, I think, and have yet to carry on with the series, and like I mentioned, I do want to be better about carrying on with series, so I want to pick this one up, and it does indeed have a predominantly white cover. Then for Defence Against the Dark Arts, we are told to read a book that takes place by the sea, so at the coast, or at sea, or in the sea, or something to do with the sea. And this one was actually quite a difficult one to pick, because unless you've read the book, you don't necessarily know where the setting is always, but I managed to pick one that I think is a safe choice, because it's Sea Witch by Sarah Henning, which has sea in the title, and it's an Ursula origin story, so I'm pretty sure that at least a good portion of this book will take place at sea, and if not, there'll be a fair amount that's at the coast, because she's a mermaid, so hopefully this will fit that prompt. And this has been on my TBR, well, I bought it at Yalk last year, so I bought it in July last year, and I still haven't read it, and I want to. And like I said, I'm pretty sure this is an Ursula origin story, so that's my Defence Against the Dark Arts read. And actually I feel like it's a pretty good one for Defence Against the Dark Arts, because it's a villain origin story and it's Defence Against the Dark Arts, you know? Then for Transfiguration, we have to read a book where there is shapeshifting, or that there's shapeshifting in the series at some point. And for this one, I've picked Monstrous Volume 1. I have actually read this before, but I want to reread it before I read Volume 2, because I don't feel like I properly understood what was happening in Volume 1, but I do know that there is shapeshifting, and I can't really tell you what it's about because I still don't really understand what it's about, so sorry about that. So those are my core subjects for Metal Charming, and we now move on to my two options, and I have chosen Care of Magical Creatures and Potions. So for Care of Magical Creatures, you have to read a book with a beak on the cover of some kind. So for this one, I have chosen An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, which has a crow on it, which has a beak. So this satisfies that. This is a fae story where we follow a human artist who goes into the fae world to create art, because the fae can't create art, I guess because it's a form of lying, I don't know. And she paints human emotion into the eyes of a member of the fae royalty, and that causes a lot of trouble for her. And it's relatively short actually, and it's a nice floppy paperback. This will be the second book by Margaret Rogerson that I have read, although this is actually her debut, and I've read her other book, A Sorcery of Thorns. And I enjoyed the writing but didn't particularly connect with the characters or story too much, so I'm hoping I will like this one more. Then for Potions, the challenge is to read a book under 150 pages. So for this I am picking Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys, which is just over 100 pages I believe, and this is the prequel, although it was written many years later, the prequel to Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which is my favourite classic. So I'm really looking forward to reading this, and once I've read this I do actually plan to reread Jane Eyre at some point, not necessarily in April, but just in general. It's one I've been wanting to reread for a while because I haven't reread it in several years and I would like to, but this is my Potions pick. So those are all the books I have to read to become a Metal Charmer, or at least at Owls, but I have prepared a TBR for all of the other subjects as well, in case I want to do any of the extracurriculars that G has come up with. She's come up with some additional courses you can do this year, like learning to speak to mer people or becoming a dragon tamer or things like that. So I've prepared choices for all of the other prompts, and also hopefully this will help you out if you're still building your Owls TBR and you're reading from different subjects from me. So first off we have Astronomy, for which you have to read a book at night. So for this one I've picked a short, easy read because I figure you could read it all in one sitting in one evening, and for this I'm going with The Tales of Beedle the Bard by J.K. Rowling, and of course it's always nice to have a Harry Potter book on the Owls list. So this is the illustrated edition, so it probably looks a lot longer than what it actually is, but there's lots of illustrations in here and the font is quite large, and the actual non-illustrated version is very, very short indeed. So I think it wouldn't be too much trouble to read this in one sitting, in one evening. Divination is not one that I can help you out with, sadly, because you have to use a random number generator to select your book. Now, I have all of my physical TBR written down in my bullet journal, which I have just here. So I just assigned numbers per page of written TBR and then selected a random number and then selected another random number to pick from that list, and I came up with, rather handily, Monstrous Volume 2. So I hope I will actually have time to get to this one as well during the Owls, because it is only short, and I feel like because I struggled to understand what was happening in Volume 1, it would be a good idea for me to read Volume 1 and then Volume 2 immediately afterwards. I suspect I will just understand what's going on a little bit better if I do it that way. So I can't necessarily help you with an idea for divination, but if you want me to give you a random number, I'm happy to do that. Then there is Herbology, which is Mimblus Mimbletonia. Pick a book starting with the letter M. And for this one, I'm choosing a book that has been on my actual filmed TBR a couple of times now, and I really want to get to it, and that is Mort by Terry Pratchett, which is a Discworld novel, and it is the first in the Death series. I think it's a trilogy, and in this one we follow Mort, who is Death's new apprentice, and I suspect he's going to get in some sort of hijinks of some kind. Then we have History of Magic, which was another one I actually struggled with a little bit, because the prompt is to read a book with witches and wizards in it, and I feel like, again, you don't always necessarily know if there are witches and wizards in a book before you read it. So I had to use the spreadsheet that G has set up for us to recommend books to each other, and I do recommend you have a look at that because it is very, very useful, especially for prompts like this. So I'm going with The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert, which I believe has witches or wizards, I think it's witches, in, because it's about a girl whose grandmother passes away and she goes to visit where her grandmother lived and discovers the fairy tale land that her grandmother always wrote about, and she thought was fiction, but actually maybe it's not fiction, and I'm guessing that there are witches in this fairy tale land. I'm hoping so, because otherwise this one won't fit the prompt anymore, but this is the one I'm picking, and if you've read it and you happen to know whether or not it has witches in it, let me know. That would be really helpful. And then finally, for Muggle Studies, the prompt is to read a contemporary, and for this one I am picking The Travelling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Irikawa and translated by Philip Gabriel. And this is one I got for my birthday, and I didn't realise when I hauled it, but one of you has kindly since told me, thank you very much Candice, that it's actually told from the perspective of the cat, which is even better, and I'm even more excited to read this now. So this is my Muggle Studies pick, and those are all the books for all 12 prompts for the Owls. I hope to read at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these, and then if I have time I will do the other 5. Hopefully I will have time, because there are some graphic novels in here and I do tend to read around 14 books a month on average, so hopefully I should have time to read all of these. But let me know if you're taking part in the Owls. If you are, have you picked a career? Have you chosen your TBR? Tell all in the comments. And that's it for this one. Thank you so, so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.